Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Today, we are not just previewing a tennis match. We are standing at the precipice of history. We are looking at a collision course that has sent ripples through the tennis world. From the clay courts of Roland Garros in Paris to the humid, electric hard courts of Manila. The headline you see is not hyperbole. It is a reality of the stakes we are facing. All of France shocked. Why? Because one of their most resilient, tactical, and experienced warriors, a woman who has slain world number ones on the biggest stages, is about to walk into a cauldron of noise, passion, and national destiny that few players on the tour have ever experienced. We are talking about the Philippine Open. We are talking about the first ever WTA 125 event to be hosted on Philippine soil. And we are talking about the match that everyone, and I mean everyone, has circled in red ink. The pride of the Philippines, the left-handed lightning, Alexandra Eala, going head-to-head against the French enigma, the four-time ITF champion, the giant killer herself, Léolia Jeanjean. Now, let's unpack why this is sending shockwaves before a single ball has even been hit. For the French tennis community, Léolia Jeanjean is a symbol of the second wind. She's a player who quit tennis, went to college in the United States, got her degrees, and came back to shock the world by dismantling Karolina Pliskova at the French Open. She is a player who knows how to handle pressure. She knows how to dismantle power players. She is a tactician of the highest order. But the shock coming out of French media circles right now isn't about her skill. It's about the realization of what she is walking into. They're looking at the draw, they're looking at the venue, and they are realizing that Jeanjean is not just playing a 20-year-old rising star. She is playing against an entire nation. This is the narrative that makes sport so transcendent. On one side of the net, you have Alexandra Eala, fresh off her Australian Open campaign, where she made her main draw debut, a historic milestone in itself. She stood toe-to-toe with the heavy-hitting American Alicia Parks in Melbourne. She felt the pace of a Grand Slam main draw. She took the blows, she learned the lessons, and now, less than a week later, she has landed in Manila. The prodigal daughter returns. But she doesn't return as a junior champion anymore. She returns as a top 50 or nearing top 50 caliber professional. She returns as the face of Philippine tennis. The pressure on her shoulders is heavier than the humidity in Manila. Every forehand she hits will be scrutinized. Every scream of "come on" will be echoed by thousands in the stands at the Rizal Memorial Tennis Center. And on the other side, Léolia Jeanjean, the woman who was never supposed to be here, a player whose career was written off a decade ago due to injuries, only to rise like a phoenix. She possesses a game that is the antithesis of modern boom-boom tennis. She slices, she drops shots, she changes the rhythm. She is a nightmare for young, aggressive players because she doesn't give you the same ball twice. The French analysts know this. They know that on paper, Jeanjean has the tools to dismantle a young power hitter. But they are shocked because they realize the variable they cannot calculate, the home court advantage. We have seen what happens when a national hero plays at home. We saw it with Andy Murray at Wimbledon. We saw it with Ash Barty in Australia. And now, we are about to see it with Alexandra Eala in the Philippines. The shock is the anticipation of the upset. The shock is the realization that the veteran Jeanjean, with all her experience, might be walking into a buzzsaw of momentum. This is the Philippine Open preview. This is the match that defines the tournament. Eala versus Jeanjean isn't just a first-round or early-round clash. It is a clash of generations, a clash of styles, and a clash of narratives. The fearless youth with the weight of a country on her back versus the seasoned veteran who plays with the freedom of someone who has nothing to lose. If you are a fan of tennis, if you are a fan of sports psychology, if you are a fan of sheer, unadulterated drama, you cannot look away. This is the moment Alexandra Eala has been building towards since she was hitting balls at the Rafa Nadal Academy as a teenager. This is the moment Léolia Jeanjean had prepared for in every gritty ITF battle she has fought. The question isn't just who will win. The question is, can Alexandra Eala channel the energy of the crowd to overpower the crafty Frenchwoman? Or will Léolia Jeanjean use her sliced backhand to dissect the hopes of a nation and silence the Manila crowd? The French media is already bracing for impact. The Philippine fans are ready to erupt. We're going to go deep today. We're going to break down the stats, the head-to-head implications, the surface speed at Resall Memorial, the tactical adjustments Eala needs to make after her loss to Parks in Melbourne, and why Jeanjean's unique junk balling style poses the ultimate test for Eala's maturity. Buckle up. This is a definitive, deep-dive preview of the match that will define the inaugural Philippine Women's Open. This is Alex Eala. This is Léolia Jeanjean. And this is a breakdown you won't find anywhere else. Let's transition into the analysis. To understand where we are going, we have to understand where we've been. Let's look at the tail of the tape, starting with the home favorite, Alexandra Eala. We need to contextualize Eala's current form. We just saw her in Melbourne at the Australian Open 2026. She faced Alicia Parks. Now, if you watched that match, you saw the good and the bad. You saw the devastating lefty forehand that can open up the court against anyone. When Eala has time, when she can set her feet, that cross-court forehand is a weapon of mass destruction. It dips, it spins, and it pushes opponents deep behind the baseline. But against Parks, we also saw the vulnerability, the serve and the movement under extreme pressure. Parks is a big server, a first-strike player. Eala struggled to neutralize that power. However, Léolia Jeanjean is not Alicia Parks, and this is the critical tactical pivot point of this preview. Jeanjean is not going to blow Eala off the court with 120-mile-per-hour serves. Jeanjean is going to invite Eala to miss. Jeanjean is a four-time ITF champion, not because she is the hardest, but because she plays the smartest. Let's look at Jeanjean's profile. She is often described as a throwback player. She doesn't have the typical double-handed backhand drive. She often relies on a biting slice. She uses the drop shot from the baseline. She changes the height of the ball. For a player like Eala, who thrives on rhythm, bang, 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 Jeanjean is kryptonite. Eala likes a ball that comes onto her racket with pace, so she can redirect it. Jeanjean gives you dead balls. She gives you balls that skid low. She forces you to generate your own pace, and that is where unforced errors live. The French media's shock likely stems from their knowledge of this matchup dynamic. They know that Jeanjean has the experience to frustrate a 20-year-old. They remember Jeanjean dismantling Pliskova at Roland Garros 2022. How did she do it? She made Pliskova move. She made Pliskova bend her knees. She refused to give Pliskova the same ball twice. That is exactly the game plan she will bring to Manila against Eala. But here is the counter-argument, and here is why the Philippines should be optimistic. Alex Eala has evolved. 2 years ago, maybe even 1 year ago, Eala might have baited herself into overhitting against a player like Jeanjean. But under the tutelage of the Rafa Nadal Academy, and with her recent exposure to top-tier WTA events, Eala has improved her patience. She has learned to construct points rather than just looking for the winner on ball 3. Let's talk about the venue, the Resall Memorial Tennis Center. This is a newly refurbished facility. The courts are likely to be medium-slow hard courts, typical of the region. This surface actually favors Eala in this specific matchup. Why? Because the grid of the court will allow Eala's topspin forehand to bite and jump up high. Jeanjean's slice stays low, yes, but on a gritty hard court, it might sit up just enough for Eala to step in and crush it. Furthermore, the humidity. Manila in January is not as brutal as May, but it is still humid. The ball will travel through the air with a certain heaviness. This favors a player who can generate their own power. That's Eala. Jeanjean relies on redirection. Eala relies on generation. In heavy conditions, generation wins. We also have to discuss the X factor, the crowd. You cannot quantify this in a spreadsheet. This is the first ever WTA 125 in the Philippines. The hunger for tennis in the country is ravenous. We've seen it when Eala plays the SEA games, but this is different. This is the WTA Tour. Points are on the line. Rankings are on the line. The crowd will be partisan in a way Jeanjean has likely never faced outside of a Billie Jean King Cup tie. Every time Jeanjean misses a first serve, there will be a murmur. Every time Eala hits a winner, the roof will blow off. Psychologically, how does Jeanjean handle this? She is 30 years old, or approaching it. She is a veteran. She might smile and enjoy the atmosphere. Or it might rattle her. We've seen French players historically have a volatile relationship with hostile crowds. Sometimes they feed off it, sometimes they crumble. If Eala gets off to a fast start, say, an early break in the first set, the shock will become a reality very quickly. The French fans watching the live streams back in Europe will see their experienced tactical master being overwhelmed by a wave of momentum. Let's look at the stats. Eala's left-handed serve is a major asset here. Jeanjean's return game is solid, but she struggles against high-bouncing balls to her backhand. Eala's ad-court serve, the wide slice out wide, is the key. If Eala can consistently pull Jeanjean off the court on the ad side, she opens up the entire court for a forehand winner into the open space. This is a Nadal tactic, and Eala executes it beautifully when she is confident. On the flip side, what does Jeanjean need to do to win? She needs to make the match ugly. She needs to slow it down. She needs to use the moonball. She needs to bring Eala to the net on her own terms. Eala's net game has improved, particularly her drive volleys, but she is still most comfortable at the baseline. If Jeanjean can hit short, low slices that force Eala to come forward and hit difficult approach shots, Jeanjean will have the upper hand. This match is a classic attacker versus defender scenario, but with a twist. Eala is the attacker, but she is also the home hero. Jeanjean is a defender, but she is also the spoiler. The narrative arc of this match is almost cinematic. As we begin to wrap up this extensive preview, let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture. Why does this single match matter so much? Why are we dedicating this much time to a round of 32 or round of 16 match at a WTA 125 event? Because this is the spark. For Philippine tennis, the Philippine Women's Open is a test case. It is a proof of concept. If Alex Eala can make a deep run here, if she can get past a dangerous, legitimate, for-time ITF champion like Léolia Jeanjean, it validates the entire tournament. It proves that the Philippines is not just a host for tennis, but a home for elite tennis. For Alex Eala, a win here will be monumental for her 2026 season. She is chasing the top 50. She is chasing direct entry into the Grand Slams without needing wild cards or qualifiers. Beating a player of Jeanjean's caliber, a player who has been inside the top 100, who has Grand Slam pedigree, is exactly the kind of bread and butter when she needs to stack up. It's not just about beating the top 10 players. It's about consistently beating the top 100 to 150 veterans who are gatekeepers of the tour. Jeanjean is the ultimate gatekeeper. If Eala gets past her, the gate opens to the deeper rounds. For Léolia Jeanjean, this is a chance to play the villain, and I mean that in the most sporting sense. It is a chance to show that experience and guile can still triumph over youth and power. If she wins, she silences a crowd and reminds the world why she is such a dangerous floater in any draw. So what is the verdict? My prediction is that we are going to see a 3-set war. I believe Jeanjean will take a set, likely the first one, as she confuses Eala with her spins and slices. The crowd might get quiet. The shock will feel imminent. But I believe the humidity, the physicality of the match, and the sheer force of will from the Filipino crowd will allow Eala to grind her way back into it. I see Eala winning in 3 sets, perhaps 6-4 in the third. It will be ugly, it will be gritty, but it will be the kind of match that builds a champion's character. The shock that the title alludes to, it won't be Eala losing. It will be the sheer intensity of the tennis on display. It will be the world realizing that Manila is a tennis destination. It will be the realization in France that their veteran played a hell of a match, but ran into a force of nature. To all the fans in Manila, if you have a ticket, do not sell it. Show up. Be loud. This is your moment to impact the match. To the fans watching globally, do not miss this stream. You're going to see tactical tennis at its finest. You're going to see the future of Asian tennis in Alex Eala and the resilience of European tennis in Léolia Jeanjean. This is a Philippine Open. This is the match of the tournament. The stage is set. The players are ready. History is waiting to be written. Thank you for staying with me for this deep dive. We have analyzed the tactical nuance, the emotional stakes, and the historical context. Now, there is nothing left to do but watch the ball fly. Here is what I can do for you next. If you want me to simulate the play-by-play commentary for the first set of this hypothetical matchup to see exactly how Eala's forehand matches up against Jeanjean's slice in real time, just let me know in the comments below. This is your host, signing off. Enjoy the tennis.